everyone, Madilynn Dale here, the Chapter Goddess. I am a mom, author, blogger, freelancer, podcaster, producer, and overall creative. With this show, I really want to focus on creatives and bring their authentic self to life. How are they motivated to pursue their passions? What have been the struggles along the way? Does self-care play an important role in who they are today and how they connect with the creative flow? Bringing one's authentic self to the forefront is important in this world that we live in currently. Sharing your self-care, your tips, and how you stay on track for things without losing it completely is also important. Self-care is not talked about enough, and authenticity and self-care are what I like to highlight with my creatives, as well as getting to know them. So get ready for a fun and entertaining show. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get ready to meet this episode's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Chapter Goddess Chat Live. I'm going to apologize because I apparently have a cat in here that doesn't normally hang out with me during the show, and another one begging to get in at the door. So, life with animals, guys. On a different note, I'm excited to bring you guys a new guest this morning, a new author with an exciting couple of books out there. But hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's meet today's guest. Hey. How's it going?
Hello. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to be on the show.
Yes. I'm glad to have you on here. And I'm also going to apologize for the cats. My husband may have to poke in and grab them. This is Onyx, guys, the black cat back here. didn't even know she was hanging out in here. She's not normally in here. So you get to see the magic. Super Heidi cat today. But Blake, go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself and some of your books.
Well, I'm originally from Texas. I moved a couple years ago from Northern California to Florida. I have a 3-year-old daughter who's amazing, smart, funny, exciting. I have a series of books that just I decided this year, was the year that they were really going to let loose. It had taken about 7 to 8 years to actually really finally get them from conceptual thought to being bound and published. But the last one just got released, so that's the 5th in the first 5 that got released this year. With there'll be a number about 7 or 8 in the next couple years coming out. I mean, it's pretty fluid at this point. So the last one that just got released is Kutri, and I started with one, Gentleman's Choice. And I'd say that, the motivating aspect of it is, I've lived a lot of places. I've experienced a lot, quite different than just the writing. So I've decided to use all the little stories and promptings and intrinsic and esoteric concepts to really meld it to paper. And that's what's been happening for the last about 5 years, pretty aggressively.
Yeah. It's amazing how writing affects us spiritually, emotionally, and everything. With these books coming out, have you noticed a change within yourself?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's interesting when words start to form. I have books that I've written that I haven't even looked at for a couple years, just because my mind has changed so much from where I was 3 years ago. So I think that it's definitely taken on my thought pattern has taken on a new dimension in the last couple of years, especially when it comes to my genre that I choose for writing. I went from a little bit more of a psychological aspect Then I turned it to a psychological thriller aspect, and then I went almost straight dystopian on the last novel. So they're definitely all different. There's not one that's the same as the other, which is just your mind going where it goes.
That's true. Did you read a lot of similar books to what you write before you started writing?
So growing up, I was pretty voracious, and I would say that my motivations, my favorite writers I really liked Ayn Rand, I liked Orwell, all the big classics. I really enjoyed on a psychological thriller basis. I was big into Thomas Harris, and then there's obviously writers, poets, Thoreau, Frost, that have short stories and short poems that really pierced me as well. So I would say that as far as dystopian angle, my latest one is isn't based off of, but you would feel a little bit of a vibe of an Orwell vibe or a Aldous Huxley vibe, and whereas my first ones are going to be more of a thriller, psychological, Thomas Harris, Silence of the Lambs type situation. So they're just starting to really to gravitate in all sorts of different ways, really.
Man, that's crazy. That I've never been. Well, okay, I say that never been. I'm more of a horror reader nowadays than I was when I was younger. I guess the vivid imagination I've got as a creative, I have more nightmares reading horror stories than watching a movie. How that works, I don't know, but that's crazy. Let's talk about, you said Kutri. Did I say that right?
So Kutri, so Redline and Kutri more or less came out around the same time.
Yeah.
Redline was the first one that I actually thought of writing, but it took, it was the fourth one released, and then Kutri. So Redline, I mean, they're completely different, but I can definitely talk about them.
Yeah, sweet. Well, let's dive into Redline first and kind of explore that story. Tell our listeners and viewers a little about maybe the synopsis, what happens in that book.
When there's a lot of big movies in the last 10 years, be it, Marvel, Star Wars, that have been released. And when they get released, the Avengers, some of these do blockbuster numbers that, had never been before seen. And then we obviously have wars and everything that's going on. And I went to go see a movie years back, and it was a new release, and then it was so busy. I mean, it seemed like there was 45 minutes to an hour just to get your ticket, the whole deal. I mean, even if you bought it online, you're still waiting and waiting. And I was thinking when I was doing it and I started writing, I wrote a little note to myself about how intriguing it would be as if we had a new form of terrorism where somebody decided, or a group of people, decided that the old way wasn't working in terms of extracting what they wanted. So what they would do is, on the opening of a huge universal global movie, they would bomb all of the theaters. And once they bombed all the theaters, everybody would obviously at that point cease from going to movies because they'd be too scared that the theaters would be bombed. But this would all be a play on itself, because years leading up to it, with TV and all of the streaming services we have, they actually got the best programmers all over the world to infiltrate the streaming services, and they start getting everybody at home through the pixelations of the TV. So when you're not at the movies and you're at home and you're safe in your house and you're watching a movie or a TV show thinking, well, I'll never get hurt because I'm at home now, the actual pixelations on the TV are brainwashing you, and they are slowly turning you into terrorists. At times it could be a jihadist, it could be a terrorist, it could be somebody that's against against a particular sect or group, but you're not safe outside and you're not safe inside. So I thought that would be interesting, because if you're not safe inside and you're not safe outside, then what's next? You have to reinvent the entire system. So that's Redline.
Yikes. That sounds so realistic too. Like legit could happen any day. Oh, those are the
It
books
could. It
that
could.
are so
I mean,
good that you're like, holy crap, I really hope this never comes true. But I feel like I could handle it because I read this kind of book. Oh.
So since I'm pretty fastidious with like all the work and writing and focused on that, I don't watch too much TV. My daughter obviously will watch, some shows, and I'll watch them with her. But I'm not nervous myself, but
Yeah.
maybe I should be. But I know I really don't know. I think that we live during an era where anything is possible. I mean, you really can't cancel anything out. I think that you can get thrown for a loop every day. I think that there's things in the works that are leading up that we're all unaware of, whether it's domestic or international. I think that caution should be a priority, erring on caution at all times. So this book is significant in the sense of it is a call out to err on caution, to be aware of your surroundings, and to obviously tread lightly in and tempering your excitement at times for things that may not go the way you appeal that you think they'll go. So that's Redline. It starts off with a bang. I won't go into the opening, but it's meant to really catch the reader immediately. So, and then before that book, before I even tell you about Kutri, there's been a number of them released, but the one leading up to that I think would have, although I do think that Redline appeals to all audiences for sure, but Dark Beauty definitely appeals to the younger, I'd say to mid 30s, mid 40s generation, maybe even a little older. It's about two twins, two models, the most successful, prettiest girls in the entire world, and they're twins. One's good, and one you end up seeing breaks bad, and opening night of their big Hollywood performance. Their movie was a smash. Everybody loves them. They basically rule the world. And an ex-boyfriend throws acid on their face.
Oh, ow.
The one sister jumps in front of the other, and their faces melt off in front of everybody. So
it melts off in front of everybody?
Well, acid will do it. So, but that book is a series that goes, it's not the same as another, but I really wanted to touch in psychologically into the woman's psyche of revenge and animus towards anybody that they believe has wronged them, where one being good and the other going completely rogue. So that book is the lead up to Redline. Obviously, completely different genres, but if you were looking for a fun, definitely dark and thrilling ride, both of those will take you on that for sure.
Man. So in writing those, did you have to kind of like explore some darker portions of yourself, or what kind of research did you do to get into that headspace?
So I would say that the biggest headspace I had to get into with my novels of recently would be the one preceding that, or which was Goodbye Stranger. I would say that that there's definitely research. I mean, there's been no book that's been from conception to execution less than 6 years. About that time. I mean, there's been so many drafts. They've been tossed out. I would say that we have so much. We have, just it's our library, our universal library at this point is so vast with your phone and everything at a finger's touch, that anything that I ever wanted to research was there. So I decided to really delve into to head traumas when people are younger, to see how that manifests as they get older, and what kind of psychological aspect that could have on somebody who actually ends up having a impaired temperament. I focused on international and domestic terrorism. I did that for 2 years to really get in the mind of a leader that's going to go out there and try to absolve and fight all of the darkness out there. And then, as far as dystopian, my focus was really taking myself out of the current societal means and really imagining a place at the direction and the pace we're going. I mean, 25 years ago, less, obviously, less than 20 years, and we didn't have phones. We had phones, but we didn't have this capability. So I'm trying to picture, and I know what it'll be like 50 or 100 years from now. And then I outline it. And once I outline it, I then let it simmer. And then once it simmers and stews, then it's time to get going. So I would say, based on that, based on experiences, yeah, that's pretty much the motivation.
Nice. So in getting these into the physical format, what would you say was your biggest challenge? And we're going to go back to Kutri in a minute, but like this question's totally like curious, because you've put a lot of work and thought into this.
So I actually I worked on them, but they went dormant for a while. My focus was taken away. So in terms of that, I didn't reach out to a bunch of publishing houses to start or any of that. I just actually figured that, hey, I can write. I've put together, what appears to be, some definitely functioning literature, but at the same, some thrillers, but I don't know where I'm going to go. And a couple people that I had given some copies to were really taken aback by why they're not going out. And through that process, one in particular reached out to me pretty aggressively, and that was HellBound Books. And they used to be smaller, and they developed so well into a medium size, getting to a real nice size publishing house, with a number of wonderful writers that have really taken off, plus very strong leadership. And after doing the due diligence there and seeing the amount of effort and work and how everything's so aligned, they really were wanting me to get back into writing and to focus on the next chapters. And so they went ahead and took on all of my novels, and exclusively. So and then from that point, I got right back into the ideas. I broke out, the ideas I've had, and now it's just been a marathon. So, I get up early. That doesn't mean I go to sleep necessarily early, but I'm certainly regimented. So, plus there's a number of other things. So, as far as that goes, that's it. It's challenging with anything else. I streamlined segued from one particular occupation that I had been in for a good number of years. and then, I decided to focus on this path. So, I mean, this is the current path. We'll see where it goes.
Yes, that is awesome. Well, let's dive into Kutri. Like, tell me more about that one.
So Kutri, the concept of Kutri was embedded in me, I would say, in about 2017. So significantly before COVID, permeated the thoughts of everybody out there and really just blew everything up. So with Kutri, there's an obvious epidemic that more or less just wipes out, a good portion of the world, not just individual countries, but the world. And the women are significantly outnumbered by men. Without giving numbers, I could say that it's 1 to 100 is nothing. We're looking at significant numbers. And the government decides to intercede and actually take advantage of this terrible epidemic. And instead of restoring and getting everybody back to the way it was, with obviously improvements, they have decided to infiltrate individual relationships to where nobody of any ethnic class can marry each other. Everything has to stay exactly to the town, to the ethnicity you are. They control your dating, they control your marriage, they control more or less what you're eating, they control your life. If you do not act by their rules, then you will be removed and, basically destroyed. And so Kutri is a beautiful, young Indian girl from a small town in India, and there's a number of men that she has as suitors that have to pay a dowry, because since the women are so outnumbered by men, or the men outnumber women, excuse me, so significantly, that in order to find a wife, you have to pay the big bucks. And Kutri, they're trying to marry off Kutri to somebody that's from a town such as hers that has that kind of funding. And she meets the man, he pays the dowry, and she starts to get cold feet, but she really doesn't have much of a choice but to go through it. She ends up falling in love with somebody that's not of her ethnicity, somebody that actually works for the system, and that's where it starts. So now they're on the run, and these two are going to stir the hornet's nest for the entire world of what happens when you try to take away anybody's free agency. And that's where we go. It's very dystopian. It's set in the future. There's moments in it where people are rummaging through the debris of the horror that's taken place over the years previous, and they're discovering Beatles albums and Nirvana memorabilia and all sorts of things from the 80s, and that really resonate, but they have no clue what they're even finding because everything's been destroyed, but for the reader, that has a little bit of pop culture, it's going to resonate pretty well.
Yeah, it kind of gives that nostalgia thing going on too. I like that. So with their world being set in the future and it being dystopian, do you have a lot of advancements in like technology on top of the kind of like world imploding on itself and having to go back to like using fire for some of the poor persons in the stories? Like, what is the world like?
So the way that you're currently, I would say the word, in some ways, I mean, it's not, you could call it deliberate, you could call it unintentional, but whatever it may be, anytime you're on your phone, anytime you're talking on your phone, anytime you're anywhere where there's some sort of connection that's linked to anywhere that has a huge company of manufactured goods, it seems to catalog your brain into what you like. So if you're somebody that enjoys ordering, ordering Fruity Pebbles to eat for breakfast. Before you know it, every morning you wake up, there'll be an ad on your phone for a new brand of Cocoa Pebbles. And then there'll be a new ad for Rainbow Pebbles and everything that you could think of. And even at times when your brain is not even speaking out loud, and it's just a streaming consciousness thought, your phone or your TV seems to catch a hold of that. So I've taken those developments and then executed them in a form that's actually a tabernacle human body of viability. So you could see it live instead of just guessing, hey, how are they knowing what I'm thinking? But now you're going to know because you actually see it happening in front of you. So they own you.
Yeah. I'm going to probably have some Fruity Pebble Facebook ads now start popping up. Not going to lie. So,
I probably haven't eaten
that always works. Man, oh my gosh. So with this coming out, you said you've kind of got stuff that's been in the works. What is your next hurdle with your writing?
So I'm going to move genres. I'm still going to stay noir thrillers, psychological, but I'm going to develop I've been developing more of a spiritually psychological noir thrilling type genre, something that is going to flip the cliche on your standard psychological dramas. I'm going to focus on subject matters such as spicy psychological resurrections. I'm going to go into stories that we're all familiar with, that have been around for thousands of years, such as the Book of Job, or when the most prolific godlike human ever was here, obviously being destroyed on a cross. And then what happens? I'm writing a book right now called The Avengers of Blood, and The Avengers of Blood takes place after Jesus comes down from the cross, and it goes through the next 2 or 3 days, 2.5 days, until he comes about, and it's a complete massacre of anybody involved in his murder. And so it's very Tarantino-esque, but it has a very spiritual undertone because it's not something that he would have wanted, because he would avenge his own murderers. But and it's going to completely tell another side of the story of everything that was happening at the meridian of time during that particular time. So, and it's called Avengers of Blood because in the Bible, in the Old Testament, when somebody killed or wronged, generally killed somebody during Moses's time, if the other family could hire out or use somebody internally in their family to avenge their brother or their sister or their cousin or their nephew's death, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. They were called Avengers of Blood. So I'm going to take those Avengers of Blood, throw them in the meridian of time when Jesus was obviously destroyed in that aspect, and put a complete spin on that. So that's one novel that's in the works. And then I'm doing a novel, working on a bit of a modern, it has a little bit of a sports element, which is something that I don't normally work on, but about 2 twin brothers that are 5 years old. Both of their fathers were Major League Baseball players. One of them actually did well. The other one got thrown out for drugs and just excessive poor behavior and choices. He has a jealousy towards the player that succeeded, and it's a jealousy that overwhelms him. And he decides at one point, since he never had his own kids, he's gonna he's going to kidnap one of the twins and raise him himself. What the twist on that is, though, is the kidnapper actually ends up being the more significant and better parent. And so it really is a psychological look at not only parenting, but vengeance and vendettas and temperament and the psyche behind people not attaining what they like or what they think should be given to them in this life. So I've been working on that for about 4 years now, and then there's a number of other ones, but I am doing a modern spin on the Book of Job, and it's definitely modern. It's set currently, and it's going to have dystopian elements, and it's more or less about what happens when you die and what people think happens when you're actually here, or why you're even here in the first place, and with a psychological, twist, and from all elements, from walks of life. And so that one is, and obviously being, it's fiction, but I really, it starts off with a bang too. So there's a number of others, it's endless upon endless.
Oh, and I forgot to, hi JD, sorry I missed this. I don't know when you posted this. I've been so enraptured in the conversation. Saw this was live. I wanted to hop in quick to say hello. So yeah, man. Okay, I'm completely fascinated by the story ideas that you just tossed out there, because that's just my brain's taking those ideas and running with them.
Thank you.
Have you had to do much research in those areas with the work in progress?
Constantly.
Yes.
Constantly. I'd say, I would say at least, if you had to put it into like a regular work week, I would say that the research alone is about 50, 60 hours a week.
Woo, that is a lot. With that in mind, though, how do you take care of yourself? Like your self-care, your mental, health and everything. And JD says, the Book of Job is pretty interesting. A lot of people gloss over, and these sound fantastic. Maddie can totally understand being engrossed. Yes. Blessed be the constant research, Blake. Does the research tie into your day job, or do you dedicate yourself to writing exclusively?
I'm dedicated to writing exclusively. I no longer have a day job other than taking care of my my little 3-year-old. And my focus is obviously writing, spirituality, that I get up early. I stay true to a regimen. I work out daily. I don't fill myself with anything that obviously is going to impact the positivity. And I stay focused. I listen to a lot of music, and I even this, I read a lot, which is cathartic. I don't waste, I don't waste time on things that I know aren't edifying. So, that's basically how I focus on writing.
Yeah, and that's a great form of self-care too. You're not taking in any toxic stuff. You're maintaining your health and only taking in the things that are going to benefit you.
Absolutely.
Ooh. I love that. And that also makes me curious, with everything you're working on and everything, what defines success for you? I know it's something that's going to constantly change, but what's your current view of success?
My current view of success would be closing the gap between where I am now and ideally where I feel that I could potentially be, with a level of understanding and enlightenment, if I stick to this path. So I would say that success for me is building an internal relationship with yourself, so you can actually get to know yourself, and then, spiritually with your creator, bridging that gap, so you're drawing nearer to him, and that's my focus. I really try to expound upon myself to figure out all the things that are missing. I reflect on the poor decisions that have happened, as throughout my life, and through accountability and personal development. I believe that taking that, I could spin those rotten tossed out lemons into a beautiful flowing jar of of lemonade, and that's where I go. So I try to use everything that's negative, reflective, into spinning it into positivity, as opposed to letting it just isolate and manipulate my mind into wasting time. So I believe that anything that's bad or good is anything that's bad, that's awful, anything that's good, that's wonderful. Both of those, there's such a thin line between both. You can go from one extreme to the next very quickly. You could experience joy and pain so fast. It's good to be cognizant of both, to be reflective, writing them, making notes, keeping a journal. I write notes to my daughter. Obviously, she can't read yet, but when I have ideas or things that I know are going to be impactful at some point, I write it, seal it. She'll open it much later in life. But, writing is cathartic, whether you're a novelist, whether you're a blogger, whether you're anything. Just being able to use the stream of consciousness in your mind and put it on paper, and which not only edifies yourself, but also potentially for people out there that are actually interested in reading and illuminating their own minds on something that you may have written. So that's it. Success for me is being a good father, to my daughter, having her grow up well, being educated, and maintain a flowing love for her surroundings, to be a rock for her when things are tough. And as far as myself, to continue educating, learning, and enlightening my mind.
Parent heart right here can relate to that, the child thing. It's crazy how your worldview changes when you have kids. So our final question, I'm going to pull it from JD, because he did have a kind of pertaining to keeping your mental health and stuff. So how do you curate social media, or do you stay away from it like the plague?
I haven't been on, I don't have, so the publishing house, HellBound Books. Interestingly enough, when we started going, obviously they alluded to me that I would need to have a Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all of that. But I also, clearly expressed the fact that I cannot assimilate with those very well. I'm not very good at social media. I feel like for a lot of people, it's an excellent tool and a vessel to get out the things that you're trying to do. You can accomplish so much. For me, since, I didn't grow up with it per se, it came to me when I was in my, all that was like middle to late 20s type deal. I had already been, working pretty aggressively. So I actually haven't had a Facebook account since the day Facebook, I think I had one a couple times in the last 15 years, but I don't have my own. The publishing house does. I don't have an Instagram. The publishing house does. And as far as TikTok and those, they have it. I think I had a friend once when I lived in California, set up a LinkedIn. I don't even know the password. So yeah. I know that a lot of there's been a lot of comments on the novels, and people will post things on their own TikTok, and then they amend it with HellBound Books, as well as the one that I have on there. And that's obviously a good way. But, as far as myself goes, when I wake up in the morning, my phone at that moment, and like scrolling through my feeds or any of that kind of stuff would not even exist, because I'm just saying the word feed because I've heard it a lot of times. I don't even really.
It's a good habit to wake up and not do that. So I thankfully don't have that habit. My husband does. It's how he wakes up, and I'm just like, I don't have time to do that. I gotta get up, get the kids up, get the animals outside, like boom, boom, boom. But yeah, it's totally. I have a love-hate relationship with social media, so I totally get I get the stress-free portion that you don't have to deal with it.
It's hard to do. It's to my focus is obviously it's very hard to balance that. You can get lost in it unless you're how to control it, and it's just something that I never really embraced. And not, as I said, I never would judge anybody on that, but since I didn't embrace it, for me to start at this point would just not make any sense. So I think I'll stay where I am. I'll let others manage it. But if anybody had any questions in particularly, or ever wanted to get a hold of me, I mean, I'm sure they could certainly figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Blake, thank you so much for hanging out with me on the show today. Go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers where they can snag copies of your book and where they can find the press, the publisher, so they can keep.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, the first thing is there's 5 books right now that are out. There's Gentleman's Choice. There's Goodbye Stranger. There's Dark Beauty. Redline and Kutri, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Kindle. You can go to HellBound Books, which would be nice anyway if you're looking for some modern, noir or horror. They have a great range of horror all the way to noir, psychological thrillers, and that's the publishing house that I'm with. But if you put up my name, Blake Rudman, and you went to Amazon or Barnes and Noble, you would see them as well. They're in audio form too. They're working on the last couple in audio, which I really believe they did a great job with that, especially the one that's going to be coming out shortly. All of them, but so pretty accessible in that aspect.
Awesome. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you for those who left questions in the chat live. If you're catching the replay, hit the like button, drop us some comments. We can come back and answer anything. Reach out to us, email us, social media. But yeah, otherwise, guys, have a great day and remember to stay creative.
I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to get future notifications when shows come out. Also, be sure to check out my website. I have a blog featuring this creative with some other fun and interesting questions. You can also subscribe to my newsletter there to stay up to date with all things the Chapter Goddess and Madilynn Dale. Once again, thanks for watching and have a great rest of the day.